Feels like a lot of material I have to cover in a short amount of time. The good news is when I'm excited about something, I tend to talk fast, and I'm excited about camp, so we might be able to get through it in time. One thing that I'm going to say right up front here is that camp is always in need of money, and I do not like begging, but I'm going to a little bit. Um, so far, camp has just been operating completely on generous people giving money. It does not have any kind of a business that pours money into it by volunteer staff or anything like that yet. We've been trying hard to get the pledge thing happening, and also you can do an automatic withdrawal, I guess, out of your account into camp account. Um, if you're interested in that, get with me, or maybe Chief Jesse might know more about that too. I'm not sure, but it doesn't have to be much either. I mean, if we can get 1,000 people to give $35 a month, 35 bucks a month, that's not bad. That's a couple Starbucks drinks, and yeah, you probably wouldn't even miss it. So yeah, I'm just putting that out there. If as you're going through this, you're like, man, that's a worthwhile cause, and yeah, if camp's actually worth anything, then let's make sure it keeps being able to go, I guess. All right, we're going to get right into this, and have a good time. So this is our camp sign, and it is something that we're pretty proud of. We had some help from some fine folks in South Carolina, I think, hooked us up with the CNC on the metal and everything. Yeah, it was a lot of work getting that thing in, because we went to dig the post holes and hit a granite slab. Chief Albert is our director. I'll probably be saying Chief Albert a bunch, so he's the director. We went to dig the post hole there on the right, and we get down just a little bit, and boom, I mean, we hit a granite slab, and we had a little excavator, and so we're like, well, hey, there was a big excavator left there by the guys who had put the lane in. We'll get the big one. So and we still couldn't handle. We'll go to the other side. And don't you know, it's like the granite slab covers both post holes. Like, it's massive. So we got her. It took some doing, but we got her, and we're pretty pumped about it. This is where camp is located. I wish I had my laser pointer here, but I don't. All right, so the little pin there right below St. Louis, we're about an hour and a half south of St. Louis in southeast Missouri. So just starting to get into the Ozarks there. Okay, now I'm gonna say that the next bunch of pictures are not actually from Ozark Boys Camp. They're from like Allegheny and maybe a couple from Bald Eagle, just to show you what we're getting started doing down there. We're going to start with a question, and that is right there. It's why camp? And I'm going to maybe address that question with some more questions along the lines of, how many of y'all got to grow up in a family where it was mom and dad, wow. What about a semblance of regular meal times? Okay, we're doing pretty good. What about like at least a little bit rural, where you could just be outside and do stuff, build huts, whatever kids do? Okay, so that's what we would expect. That's what we're used to in our culture. But this is pretty astounding statistic that less than half of U.S. children, so more than half of the U.S. children, don't actually get to experience that type of a thing. And it creates a lot of problems. Single parent homes, and yeah, just no structure, nothing regarding mealtime, bedtime, devotional time, anything like that. And, we've been given a lot of blessings by that thing that we've got to grow up with. And so camp is a great place where those blessings can meet those problems and kind of overpower them in a lot of ways. When we can start this kind of thing at camp and start boys in that thing of structure and just good relationships, then it helps them overcome a lot of their pain and struggle that they're dealing with. So this verse here is not King James. I hope y'all are all right with that. But a part we like about it there in the middle, it says, ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. And that's something around camp. A lot of times we do things kind of the old-fashioned way, because it's a good way. And yeah, just to do it and to walk in it, and it brings kind of a peace and a settled, slower type of a lifestyle. And it's really good for boys and adults. All right, so if you're around camp much at all, you're going to see something that you're going to be like, why in the world do y'all do it that way? That does not make sense to me at all. That's terribly inefficient, or whatever it is. And invariably, the way we do things around camp, they point back to one or a couple of these cornerstones. And we're going to go through these cornerstones as we go through the slideshow, talk about each one in turn, kind of. And the first one we're going to talk about is goals. And goals are a big deal, and maybe we don't make a big enough deal about them in our lives. It's pretty easy to just kind of have this idea of who we want to be. I like to use the example, we all probably want to be more patient or something like that. We have this idea of kind of who we want to be. But then we just kind of, it's just kind of out there. Kind of like, yeah, that mountain, the boy here, he's got his life on his back, and he'd like to be on top of that mountain. But if that's as far as it goes, he's not going to get there. But he knows that he has a trail that he has to walk, and it's going to be some downhill, some uphill. He's going to have to make short-term goals where he's like climbing this hill, and he's down in the middle where you can't even see out, can't even see a mountain, and he's going to have to make a decision I'm going to make it to the top of this next hill before I rest, or something like that. Just something measurable, and eventually he's going to get up there. So we can take that in our own lives as well, and just if we want to be more patient, let's figure out where a trigger point is, and let's decide the next time that happens, we're going to do this, and we're going to work toward being more patient. There's just a little inspiration, rah-rah there for you. This is an example of what a camper's goals will look like. There'll be something similar to this. It's not always the same things, but this is a pretty good example. Keep my stuff where it belongs. Take small corrections right away. Learn to control anger by opening up about specific feelings. Learn how to respect authority. These are things we're all working on. And everybody knows what everybody's working on. So in the entrance tent of campsite, you walk through there many, many times a day, are everybody's goal cards. Chiefs, campers, everybody. And so everybody knows what everybody's working on. And there's a lot of strength in that. Structure. Yeah, we'll just keep going here. So every morning a boy wakes up at 6:30, and he makes his bed the right way, and he does his tent chores the right way, and they work together on this, and then they go out to logs, just a sitting gathering area there where they'll have devotions and read plans, talk about what they're going to do that day, and then they go and do these campsite chores, get campsite looking nice, feeling good. And that's just something that happens every day. Same time, same order, and it's something really good about it. Here's a little shot of the devotional time happening at logs. Just a really good time. Meal times, that's another huge structure of camp. From Friday breakfast through Tuesday supper, meals are eaten in Chuck Wagon. That's what we call our dining hall and our kitchen. Just call that Chuck Wagon. And yeah, every meal is at the same time every day, and it's a big time. And you don't want to miss it. It's just everybody loves to come to Chuck Wagon. And there we got some good steaks grilling up there. It's not always steaks, but you can count on it. It's always going to be good. After the meal, the boys help clean up. And when they are done cleaning up the plates and wiping the tables, then there's a sharing time. A supervisor will lead that. And basically, he will try to get the boys to talk about what they're excited about, or what they did that morning, or what they're planning on doing that afternoon, or whatever it is. Maybe a boy was walking trail and found a sweet little box turtle or something. He wants to bring it in and show everybody this cool thing he found. And it's just a great time of sharing. And that's something that, all right, so I like to deer hunt. I like to hunt big deer. And I just try to imagine sometimes what it'd be like if that was just something that happened here, something I did, and I couldn't share my deer hunting with anybody. I couldn't talk about trail camera pictures of big deer. Couldn't talk about it when I kill a deer. Just like I don't have a chance to talk about it with anybody. It would be kind of pointless to do. I think I'd probably quit doing it. I don't know what that tells y'all about me, but anyway. So in the same way, boys need a chance to share what they're excited about, because when you share what you're excited, okay, joys are multiplied and sorrows are divided when we can share them with others. So, plans is another structure that happens around camp, and boys help to make this structure. So this happens every Tuesday afternoon, and a group will sit down and they write plans. They figure out what they're going to be doing for the next week. And that's a morning activity, an afternoon activity, and an evening activity for every day for the next week. So the group sits down and decides that, and they decided as a group and agree on it, and they have made their structure then for the next week, and that's what they're going to do. Plans are written initially in an outline form. You go around, figure out what you're going to do, and then each day you'll take those 3 lines of your outline, and a boy will write a full-page essay type. He'll kind of expand that outline into a full page telling what his group is going to do that day. And he gets to read it at morning logs the day that is. So if he's writing for next Wednesday morning after devotions, he'll get to read plans. And however much spirit he put into them now is how much spirit is going to be in them then. And so boys can do a really good job with that, and they can do not so good of a job with that. I'm going to read this set of plans. You'll get an idea of what a good set of plans is going to look like. So this is for Saturday, and it's the Woodsman group. Good morning, guys. It's 6:30 and time to get up. Soon is devotions and plans. Next is campsite chores. When that is done, we will go to Ready Logs to get set up for Chuck Wagon. Soon 2 table setters go in at 7:45. We will go up to eat at 8 o'clock. When we're done eating, we will go grab rakes and good attitudes, then clean and rake the Pioneers campsite. When we are done putting effort into our job, we will proudly put on our new Allegheny Boys Camp shirts. As the people come rushing in for open house, we will show them about camp and our coal mining bus trip at 10 o'clock. Soon, we will have a great pork barbecue lunch from 11:30 to 12:30. After our awesome lunch, we will finish our day of open house at 2 o'clock. When the people are leaving, we will hop in a van and drive to the dead end to swim and swim shower. Soon we will have supper. Table setters go in at 5:15. We eat at 5:30. This evening, we will write epic articles about open house at the library. Next, we will shower at 7:45. soon as powwow, then bed. So he gets to read that in the morning, and you know, if he puts a lot of spirit in it, probably his group's going to be a little more excited about it that day as it happens. So kind of a neat opportunity for some continuity to happen and some maybe cause and effect and all that. It's also a time when chiefs get to help campers get things right, you know, with grammar, spelling, all that stuff, just to kind of help push a boy. And these plans will go into his schoolwork portfolio to help place him at the end of when he graduates camp, to help place him back in school, just to give an idea of what grade he should be in, what grade level he's at. Here's a shot of a boy getting to read his plans in the morning. Hard work, that's something that is structured into camp. Just, it's the way it works. You have to make sure you got plenty of wood for the winter and build your tents. Here's a picture of somebody skinning a log for tent material. Yeah, and it's a thing that we use a lot of old-fashioned tools, and it makes to where you need to use teamwork quite a bit. It's hard to run a buck saw with one guy. So that's another piece that's kind of worked into that as well. So when a group goes to build a tent, say one of their tents is getting old and dilapidated, and they're like, hey, we need to replace this tent. They sit down as a group, decide what kind of tent they want it to look like. They can, anything from mild to wild, they can make an octagon tent if they want, or I think there's a group made a teepee tent just recently. So yeah, you can, whatever they decide to do, they can do it, pretty much. And so this group decided to build a, sort of like a A-frame gable type tent, but it's got a little bit of a slant to it. And so then they blueprint it onto graph paper, and then off of that they got a materials list. And they go gather materials, skin it, and start building their tent. I think this actually is a picture of that tent that was on the drawing. The next few pictures are not, I think. Tents are designed to fail in about 5 to 7 years to where they need to be rebuilt. And each campsite will have 10 to 12 tents. And so if you do the math, a group needs to replace about 2 tents a year. And that's something that just is helpful for new campers coming in, being able to get ownership in the campsite and call it theirs. This is really bad that I don't have my laser pointer, so I'll just use my finger pointer. So this is a prospector campsite, which is where I got to chief. So I think it's really cool that I get to talk about it. But this is entrance tent. Basically, this is a top-down view of what a campsite layout could kind of look like. They're not, obviously not all laid out exactly alike, but you got your sleep circle, you got your PH, your chuck tent, all that stuff. It's kind of like rooms in a house. So here's an entrance tent. This is where you come into, and then this is sleep circle. So this is chief's tent. That's where the 2 chiefs stay, and then there's 3 campers in that tent, 3 in that tent, 4 in this tent. So that's like your bedrooms. And you come over here. This is like this is PH tent, where boys have their toothbrushes, toothpaste. They have their own cups. So brush teeth there 3 times a day after every meal. This is the cook tent, it's like the kitchen. Here's the chuck tent, which is a dining tent. Also just kind of like a living area tent. We spend a lot of time in there in the winter evenings doing crafts. There's a stove in there. It's just kind of a good hangout place. And then over here is like, we call this wood corral. There's sawbucks in there where you can cut and split wood. Here's the wood tent where you stack wood. Crafts tent. You can sit in there and work on crafts, and it's also kind of a garden shed. Keep your rakes and wheelbarrow and axe and stuff. And then this is privy tent. So each campsite basically has all of those, that same kind of an idea there. More pictures of hard work, working together, gathering wood. that is a massive load of firewood, just so you know. They look pretty tickled about it, and they should be. Um, it's good stuff. Shot of cutting some firewood. Here's a group splitting. And this is a really neat picture. I love, it shows what a wood tent should look like. It's pretty full, and it's nice, neat, straight stackers. That's a wood tent that a group can be proud of there. All right, cookout. That happens on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And that is the 2 days when a group cooks in their own campsite. So they'll prepare a menu ahead of time. This is what that'll look like. Basically, a boy will come up with a plan, hopefully. Sometimes they don't have good plans, and you kind of do your best. But you try to help them come up with a good plan, and they write it down. Camp has a menu book that has loads and loads of ingredients and items in there that have prices with them. And they have a budget that they have to stay under. And so they decide what they want to eat maybe in a week or whatever. They have to, they'll prepare these a week or two ahead of time. And then they get handed into the cooks, and the cooks buy the food, put them in a basket, and send it down trail. And this is also a great place for a boy to maybe be pushed a little bit in some math. There's a lot of addition, multiplication, dividing that can happen here. Yeah, and that's just a part of it. The other part of it is cooking it and eating it. That can be a really good time. And there's been some mighty fine dishes prepared down trail. Some next thing to gourmet. Good stuff. Once in a while, camp will just have a big day. We call it a Dutch oven cook-off, and it's where staff and boys and everybody, they just go ahead and it's like a big potluck. You just cook maybe one of your favorite things you like to cook in a Dutch oven, and you just put them all on a table, and you get to go and sample everybody's and maybe see a dish you never thought about making in a Dutch oven before, and maybe take that back down trail with you and put it on a next menu or something. Trading post. This is many life lessons can get learned here. When a boy comes to camp, he gets a checkbook and he starts getting an allowance. So he learns how to balance his checkbook. He has things that he needs to buy. And then there's lots of things that he wants to buy. There's a lot of things in there that'll catch a boy's eye, anything from fishing lures to watches to whatever. He gets a chance to work on just some basic life skills as far as spending less than he makes. And a boy can start a savings account when he hits $20, and it's compounded monthly at 5%. He can also go in debt, and that's compounded monthly at 5%. So, just some really good stuff happens there, and not the least of trying not to get swindled by the storekeeper. So, it's a good time. Chapel was a really special place around camp when you got a bunch of boys that maybe have come from society and everything's just muddy. Like, truth is pretty, just can't really know for sure what's true. Is there truth? And Chapel was just a wonderful place because somehow boys, they still know. And even coming out of some really messed up situations, they ask some pretty insightful questions and have some pretty insightful comments. And so truth and worship are kind of two words that I think of when I think about Chapel at camp. Just a lot of singing goes on. Usually a supervisor leads the main discussion, I guess you'd call it a sermon or whatever, but it's usually pretty interactive. And powwow is another structure that happens every night. Right before you go to bed, you go and sit around a little fire that was actually prepared during morning chores. So it sits there all day under a little roof in case it rains. And then when it's evening and you've got all your all your work finished, all your plans done, all your problems solved, you just go sit there and you talk about the day and you just reflect on the day. What did we do today and how did it go? And it's also a good time for a camper or a chief to just put a word on, man, I saw Tyler today just consistently helping out with whatever it was they were doing. And to just put a good word on that and just affirm and evaluate. I think too often in life we just kind of blast through and we don't spend enough time evaluating how'd that actually go, and we could probably save ourselves a lot of grief or repeated mistakes if we would take some more time to evaluate. So that's what that's about. Relationships is the next cornerstone we're going to talk about. When a boy comes to camp, a lot of times relationships and respect, they're just pretty low. They don't really have a good idea of how to do that. And yeah, they get to learn. And a boy's progress at camp hinges on his relationship with his chief. If he is not able to have a good relationship with his chief, it's going to be pretty hard for him to actually make much progress. But as that relationship builds, he tends to start making progress. One other thing I might say is that this is a thing that it's kind of worked into all of camp. It doesn't feel like there's, okay, we got lines here and lines here, and this is about relationships. And then, but over here we're going to hammer structure. Like this, it's not about relationships. It's just worked into everything, and it needs to be. And it's partly because of this. And this actually is not our idea. This is God's idea. I really love this. I connected with this, I don't know, fairly recently, I would say. And the idea of doing things with boys, not to them or for them. So this structure thing that we're doing at camp, we're doing it with boys. The problem solving, we're doing it with boys. There's Matthew 1, I think it's verse 23, talks about how it's talking about the prophecy in Isaiah where a virgin shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. And that's just been really special to me that God wants to do life with us. His heart is not to do things to us or even necessarily for us. Sometimes he does. And sometimes at camp you do get to do things for your boys. But as you look back over the Old Testament, you can see how God brought the children of Israel through and how his heart was to do things with them. Sometimes he had to do things to them. Sometimes he had to do things for them. But his heart was to be there working with them where they were working, with his power. Anyway, that's something that I've sort of connected with, and it's pretty special that Jesus did come. He spent time with people here on earth, and now his spirit is with us. And so that's not our idea there. That's God's idea, and we just try to work it into camp. This is another just really good thing about camp is there's a lot of good singing that goes around camp. Just from the heart. Just let it rip, and it's good stuff. And it's not confined to inside. You can do it in campsite. You can do it walking trail. It's just a lot of good upbuilding songs that happens around camp. Crafts is another big part of camp. It's pretty fun to see a boy come and maybe not have much of an idea at all about how in the world to go about doing a craft. And just, I think the last picture in this craft section shows a picture of a boy holding a spoon. I just really love it because he almost looks surprised at how well it turned out. But it's a lot of fun watching them be successful, helping them be successful, and it's good for them and good for everybody. This is a shot of the crafts table at Christmas time. So every Christmas home visit, That's when the boys go home for the weekend, which Christmas is a little longer. But every Christmas session, we'll wrap crafts and package them up real nice. Boys will spend months making these things for their families, for gifts, for whatever. And it's really neat. So this is the crafts table, like I said, and it's pretty wild what all you see go on that thing sometimes. I haven't been around camp as many years as Chief Albert, and he says that every time he thinks, whatever, like he's been around camp 15 years and he's probably seen about every craft a boy can make. And he said every year there's always a new one that he's never seen before, never thought of. And it's just kind of neat that it's basically, you kind of have your basic spoons and cutting boards and crafts, plaques and stuff. But if you got a good enough imagination and you got a good enough plan, you can pretty much make whatever you want. See some leather work up there on the right. I'm pretty sure a boy bought a kit from Trading Post to turn that lantern into like a nightlight thing. Just some pretty neat stuff goes on. And this is that picture I was talking about. We like to play at least as hard as we work at camp. Something that you can work into you can work a lot of fun into work and turn it into play almost sometimes. This group was washing their tent tarps, getting their campsite looking good for Families Day, and looks like they got a little early and decided to do a slip and slide. So it's a good time. A lot of games, just active running games happens anywhere around the land. A lot of rambles. Ramble is something where a group will decide that they're just going to go and we call it ramble this certain area or whatever it is, maybe ramble the property line or something, and just it's always a good idea to take a pair of binoculars, take a bucket to bring the cool stuff you find back, share it in sharing time, and yeah, just go see what you can see and learn about, and yeah, just see what places you can find and neat things you can experience. This is kind of a slide of its own here. Basically, it's hard to have an idea that's just too wild. This chief, he comes to camp and he says, I'd kind of like to make a dugout canoe when I'm at camp. And his group gets excited about it. And so they made a dugout canoe, and it took hours of hacking and adzing, and I don't even know what all they did. They burned it out some, but it took a long, long time, but they got it. And they floated in the Potomac. And so, yeah, it's kind of a neat thing. Kind of, if you got spirit for something, and most importantly, if your group has spirit for something, you can't not do it almost. Just some more shots of life in the outdoors. This is one thing we're really pumped about at Ozark, is we've got a lot of Indian artifacts around there. This was at Allegheny. They started finding these and they started digging into it, the local history. And next thing you know, they had the world champion Atlatl spear thrower come to camp and show them how to throw spears and give them all a chance to hit that foam bear. Just kind of neat stuff how it can kind of progress when you start digging into something. Wintertime doesn't really tend to slow camp down. Might even speed things up a little bit. Just dress up and go for it. I love that picture. I've seen it a bunch of times already, and it just makes me grin every time. This group decided they're going to build an igloo and spend the night in it, so they did. There's a lot of things that happen around camp on a regular basis, like every year or year and a half, just something that happens. And one of them is Families Day. And that's when a boy's family, all the boys' families come to camp at the same day. And so they get to be around camp and do life with their son. And he gets to show them what they're doing. And he might get to help them build a tent, or yeah, just show them life. Here's how we play games at camp. Let's play capture the flag, and it's a lot of fun. Parents running around, and yeah, usually get a chance to do some kind of work that the boy gets to do at camp. That's one of the traditions that happens. Mother-son banquet is another one, and that's a real good one, because boys get a chance to show their mom the respect that they deserve, instead of maybe the disrespect that they've been used to. And so, yeah, it's a big deal around camp, doing the mother-son banquet, and just there's a lot of moms touched by that. And of course, this one happens every year, and it's a good time, good excuse to get together and, yeah, make a bunch of sweet corn and eat it and stand around, talk big, and just have a real good time. A lot of games, bigger group games get played, like maybe like all of camp and boys. Apple Butter Day, I don't think there's a specific date that we always do that, but just whenever the air starts feeling crisp and it feels like it's time to do Apple Butter Day, we do Apple Butter Day, and everybody gets a chance to help. Groups help cut up apples and stir the apple butter, make cider. Turkey in the hole, that is maybe the most hyped way to prepare Thanksgiving turkey that I know of. Pretty sure it is. You can see where the logs there on the bottom, that's a ditch 2 foot deep by 2 foot wide. Looks like it's, I don't know, 15 feet long maybe. And then this elaborate stack of wood on top that you light, and you just burn it all at once. And it makes a huge pile of coals that fill down in that ditch. And yeah, you rake the coals out and put your turkeys in there wrapped in 13 layers of tinfoil, not 14, not 12, or what, it might be different every year, but you got to make a big deal about it. It's a good time. And yeah, make some really good turkey. And then you get to eat it at like a Thanksgiving banquet before the boys go home on home visit for Thanksgiving. This is a kind of like a week's long tradition, usually about 2 or 3 weeks, the Christmas session. And it's really neat seeing a boy come to camp and seeing the change. When he comes often, he's like, oh man, I can't wait till Christmas. I'm going to get an Xbox, and I'm going to get Converse shoes, and I'm going to get this and this. And it's all about, this is Christmas and this is what I'm going to get. And at camp, it's neat to see it change to him, like carving a spoon and like, oh, I can't wait till I go home. I'm going to give this spoon to my mom. And just get excited about, yeah, making treats to hand out for when you Christmas carol for the neighbors. We do that at camp. Go around Christmas caroling for staff, for neighbors. Yeah, just, this is Christmas chapel in the barn. We always try to find a barn to do Christmas chapel in, and it's probably not exactly what it looked like back in Bethlehem, but it's probably more like it than what we're experiencing here. But it's always a good time. All the staff and all the groups bring something, either a song or a skit to share. And then there's another banquet there for Christmas. All right, Woodsmanship Festival. That's where everybody puts their plaids on and goes and does feats of Paul Bunyan. Bucksaw competitions and tree felling competitions. Here's a fire starting competition. There's just a lot of good, I guess, man competition stuff. Here's, for some reason we like to do obstacle courses on that day. I'm not quite sure why, but it's a lot of fun, and there's just enough danger involved to make it fun for us guys. This is a big one here. That happens in the wintertime, and yeah, it's a whole 5-6 weeks of carving and designing and trying to figure out which design is going to be the fastest. And yeah, eventually you get to the derby car race, and yeah, it's just a good time. It's really loud. I think that's about the loudest I've ever experienced just humans being. Actually, I know it is. I know it's one time. Yeah, I was in Chuck Wagon and it's happening, and we're all yelling. And I remember my ears actually started to like buzz. It was so loud, and it's such a good time. And a lot of boys, yeah, just really get into it, and they're putting graphite in their wheel axles, and it's just a really good time. They make some good stuff too. And boys get to learn how to be gracious winners and gracious losers. Obviously, there's a lot more losers than winners, so, but you got to have both. And there's some really sweet pieces that turn out. This one probably didn't win any speed prizes, but it's pretty cool. It should have won some kind of prize, maybe a creativity prize or something. So that's a lot of the traditions, I guess, that we do around camp pretty much every year. So we're going to get into trips a little bit here. Trips is a big part of camp. At camp we do three things a lot, in little ways and medium-sized ways and huge ways. And it's plan, do, and evaluate. So we do that all the time around camp. You get a plan for something, and you do it, and then you talk about how it went. And trips is probably one of the bigger ways we do that around camp, because you'll plan a trip for months, and then you'll do it for maybe weeks, 2 or 3 weeks on a canoe trip, and then you evaluate it, and then you start again, planning another trip. And yeah, it's a big part of camp, and a canoe trip is a lot of fun. Get to make a new campsite somewhere every night and never quite sure how that's going to look like or how hard it's going to be to make it feel like home. A lot of cooking over a fire and a lot of fishing and just being buddies. And then at the end of every day, on every trip, every boy writes an article. And then at the end of the session, or at the end of the trip when they're all back, the secretary, bless her heart, types all the articles up and puts them in a book in chronological order. So it's like this massive trip journal from every boy's perspective. It's a really cool book. Backpacking trips are probably the hardest physically to make happen. They tend to not be as long, although there have been groups go on a couple 3-weekers, whatever. But yeah, you just load your life up on your back and you go do it. And yeah, it's a pretty rewarding trip. And road trips are the other kind of trips we do at camp, or I always call them bus trips. Basically what will happen, a group will be studying something, they'll have kind of a theme, and they'll go and do a bus trip kind of based on this theme. They tend to not be as long, maybe a week or something, where they'll go around maybe dairy or I don't know. There's pictures of obviously some kind of an agricultural farming bus trip here in the slideshow. I think this one is probably a Civil War history one. Taking some pictures with Abe there. Yeah, so groups get to do that as well, and that's probably maybe the least done trip around camp, but it is done, and it can be done well and be a really good thing. Yeah, this group got to get in on a branding. And this is the last cornerstone we're going to talk about. And I'm going to just take a little bit of time here talking about problem solving, because the first time I saw this slideshow, and the second and the third, like I was seeing them and I was like, man, it's just all fun and games. And I don't think I'm going to be able to convey really how hard it can be, actually, the problem-solving part of things. But I'm going to attempt to, at least. This group's here circled up, solving a problem. And basically the idea is, if you're out playing a game or you're doing work or whatever it is, and Johnny has a problem, he does something or says something that the group, the chief, somebody says, hey, that's a problem. And so you circle up and you talk about it and you address it. And Johnny may be in a good attitude and be like, yeah, that's a problem. And he'll identify it and solve it. And it might take 30 seconds. Or he might flip out and it might take 5 hours. And all this time you're standing around and Johnny might be just checked out, not even listening. And so it's like, well, it's no sense talking to him anymore. And well, now what do? We still got this problem to solve. And it can just go a long, long time. And you know that time's ticking. Chuck wagon lunch is coming up. We still got 3 wheelbarrow loads of wood to cut and split. And here's Johnny just doing his thing. And it's pretty tough. I would say it's maybe one of the tougher things for boys and chiefs to just be okay with and hang in there and just help a boy out. So yeah, that's part of problem solving. Obviously, just another aspect of problem solving is just all the things you do around camp. If your lashings are bad on your tent, you see it, oh, that's a problem. So then you solve it and you relash it, right? Like there's different aspects of problem solving. But the part of the group work problem solving it can be really tough. There's a shot of a group that looks like they've been doing pretty good solving their problems. Here's a picture of line walk, and it's pretty interesting how much you can tell about a group by how their line walk looks. If their problems are solved up good and they've got a focus, it'll be evenly spaced, and it won't be, two beside each other. They'll just be walking single file. If they're not doing that great, it can look really horrible. Not much like a line at all. It's just an interesting little side note. Letters from home. That is always really special. Sometimes boys don't get many letters from home, and that's too bad because camp works with families, and yeah, it's always good when a family can participate well in camp as well. And yeah, go ahead and communicate back and forth with their son, because camp is not a place where you plop a kid to fix him. It's just not. Boys write letters home every week, at least. They're required to write one home every week, and they can write more if they want. And yeah, at camp we're working toward graduation. And a graduation happens when the camp staff and the boy's family feel good about the progress that a boy's made, the skills he's learned, just feel good about him having a leg up on getting back into the real world, I guess. And there's not a set time. Typically, we say a year and a half is about average for amount of time a boy will be there. It can be longer, it can be shorter. And this is very true. We've been kind of hacking that one to pieces actually at camp, the idea of something being very true. But I'm going to say this is very true. It's like another level of truth here. But the work of righteousness will be peace, and the effect of righteousness, quietness and assurance forever. So when there's a right way to do things and you do it right, there's a peace that goes with that, and the effect of it is just a quietness and an assurance as you go through life. It's biblical. All right, we're going to switch gears. We're going to shoot through some slides of what we have going down there in Missouri. This is our logo, which we're really pumped about, and I'm super pumped to see them on those shirts yesterday. That was cool. But we think it'll make an awesome sticker for stick on your water bottles or whatever. We're very happy with it. This slide here, I tried to reorient it, and then I figured out I have a read-only file. But north is this way. So sorry about that. But if you can picture this, this is camp's land. It's 340 acres. You can see in the middle that dark spot, that's like a 4-acre pond. If it was an Airbnb, you'd call it a lake, definitely. But that's what it is. There's creeks running through there. The St. Francis River runs around this bottom corner. It's a nice, good-sized river. It's canoeable most of the year, probably. And then over here, in this skinny tail over here, there is a peak. You can see it in the topo lines. And that's actually a named mountain on atlases. It's called Evans Mountain. And yeah, it's pretty awesome to have all the features that we have down there. We're really pumped about that. There's a lot of diversity here. I'm gonna get my timeline out here and try to blaze through it. So camp property was found in August of 22, and it had a livable house on it here. And yeah, there was a scouting trip. So it was found in August, and a week or two later, some of the same guys and some different guys went back to just look it over again and say, is this for sure where we want to buy? And that happened in September of 22, and then it was purchased in November of 22. And that's kind of wild because from when they decided to buy it to when they had enough money to buy it was about a couple weeks. And we're talking this was like 1.1 or 1.2 million. And they, in that space of time, they had that, I'll say we had that amount of money. And half of it was donated. The other half has been low interest loans, things like that. So that's pretty amazing. We're really blessed. Here's just some pictures of what the guys saw when they did their scouting trip in September, just walking around looking. This is the St. Francis River. It's really low in that picture. Yeah, just a lot of diversity. Got pines and deciduous trees and hay fields and thick brush. Just a lot of granite. Awful lot of rocks. And then these next couple pictures happened in December of 22. And basically a group of guys got together there for 4 days and hiked around the place, and they were just looking and making plans of how could we lay out camp buildings. And they would lay one layout out, and then they'd hack it to pieces, and they'd lay another one, and just kind of trial and error, figuring it out. How do we actually want to lay camp out? And then at the tail end of that 4 days was the first on-site board meeting. And so the board had the boring part of their meeting in the first part of the day, and then they got to go out and listen and just kind of absorb how these other guys that thought camp could lay out, just try to, understand that and ask questions and suggest other ideas and things like that. So that happened in December. It was cold and rainy. The lane clearing started happening in March of 23. We had to build I think it's about a half a mile of lane through over 2 creeks, and yeah, it was just wilderness, and had to put a lane in. So here's some shots of that, clearing the lane. And then, yeah, there was just some work done inside the house. The house was livable, but it had a few things, electrical things that needed addressed. And here, Leon's tiling the shower there had never been tiled, just things like that. Also, septic systems. This is all spring of 23. It's Missouri, and in Missouri, if you have over 3 acres, you can do whatever you want to with your septic. And so what they wanted to do is pipe it in a ditch. And we didn't want to do that, so we put in septic systems. Here's some shots of the Weiler brothers making our lane. That happened in June 23. Pretty big project. But they had some big machinery to do it with. That dozer back there could literally push a dump truck load of dirt. It's pretty awesome. Here is a picture of Chief Albert and his boy Landon with some fish they caught out of the pond. And don't miss the big one right there that his leg is kind of camouflaging. Some really good fishing around there. Here's we call it our multi-purpose building. It is our maintenance building. It's our chuck wagon. It's our wood shop. It's our chief's lodge. It's our trip room. It's a big building. It serves a lot of purposes, and it's serving them well. That building was started in August of 23, and that's also when Chief Alberts moved to the property, was August of 23. The Buckhorn cabin was set on a 9-foot basement in the spring of 24. I think it was May. This stone house, we started remodeling it in the spring of 24, and it looks like this today. So I'll go back and forth there a little more, just so you can see this was before. Actually, this wasn't quite a true before picture. It's actually cleaned up a lot. Even just get a picture of it. And this is what it looks like now. It's a beautiful place. And then this place was purchased this spring. And this is actually where my wife Krista and I live. And it is not connected to camp property. This is about exactly a mile from the main buildings, the multi-purpose building, but it's separated from camp property by maybe half a mile or something. It's a home and some outbuildings and 18 acres. So that was just a real godsend there. And our shower house, we started laying the block up the last week of February. And this is a picture that shows that we don't discriminate when it comes to volunteer labor. That's a picture of it a little while ago. It looks some different than that by now. Here's our very first tent that was built. A group from Allegheny came and built that in the fall of 23. Yeah, fall of 23. They built that, and interesting fact, the very first post hole they ever dug for this tent, they got down about a foot and found a perfect arrowhead spear point. So that was really cool. Clued us into what was kind of around the land. And I don't know, that if you're looking for a sign, that feels like that could be kind of a cool sign, you know. But if you're not, then it's all right. This is most of our staff bunch. There are 25 of us there, and 12 of those being children of the staff at camp. So yeah, we got our 2 chiefs right here, secretary. Yeah, anyway, I ain't gonna go around the circle, but there's a little band in Lowly, but it's good stuff. We're figuring it out and becoming good friends. We just think it's really pretty there. We hope y'all do too. Open house is Saturday, if any of y'all want to come down there. Open house is from 10 to 2. You can come check the place out. This is our group. We got boys. So August 6th, we got our first camper, and August 7th, we got our second one. And they've been walking around the place there for a little over 3 weeks now. And it's just really cool to be doing camp. We got our third boy since we've been on this trip. We got him Friday. So the Ranger group has 3 boys in it now. Shot of them doing some cooking. And this is the very first trailer load of dirt that was ever got by any group at camp. Very noteworthy picture. It's a massive load of dirt. They actually bent the trailer, and the tractor could barely get it up the mountain to their campsite, but it all worked out. And just another shot of them heading to shower probably after splitting wood or something. So that's the end of my slideshow. I have a little bit that I want to tell y'all here. I asked the group. So Wednesday we got our boys back from home visit, I told him, I said, tomorrow morning before I leave to go up to Wisconsin, I want to hear some life advice from y'all. Y'all be thinking about it. What should I tell my people that I get to talk to? What should I tell them? Y'all got any good advice? And so they had a day to think about it. Well, Thursday about 10:50, we were going to try to leave at 12, I think. So 10:50, I'm around the buildings there, and I'm like, man, I better get up there. So I run up there, and they were supposed to have been stacking wood in under, they just put up like a rain tarp. They don't have a wood tent yet. They're needing to build that yet, but they were going to stack wood in under their rain tarp. And I running up the trail, and I'm like, man, I ain't hearing nothing. So I start walking, and still nothing. I get about to their campsite, and I just hear quiet talking. So I see them. They're circled up, and they're talking. And here, one of the boys came back from home visit, and one of his home visit goals was not completed. His education goal, he was going to do one unit of math and write an article. Well, he didn't, and he was not very nice to his mom while he wasn't doing that. So here he is at camp, and it's a problem, right? So they're talking to him, and he seems to be pretty workable. He's talking about it, and I sit down and listen a while, and it's, starting to be about 11:30, and the other boy, he's getting antsy. He's like, man, chuck wagon's coming up, and we got all this wood to stack in yet. And it's like, well, yeah, but like, can we hang in here and help solve a problem? Yeah, all right. So he's still on board. That's good. And anyway, so it's just, if you can picture what's going on here, we've got a problem happening, and the boy in the problem, he was able to identify his problem. He said, yes, I didn't take responsibility for my own stuff. Like, it's not my mom's problem. It's not anybody's problem. So it's like, well, how can we get that taken care of? And, well, his group thought that he should probably write the article that he was supposed to write, and I don't know, maybe get his mom to email his math sheets, and he could do that. And he's saying, I'll do my math, but I'm not going to write that article. And that's kind of where he was. So all of a sudden, he just kind of laid down. He just literally laid down in the circle. And he's just kind of laying there. Okay, well now, what do the rest of us do? Like, here we are, but now what? So I said, well, hey, maybe now would be a good time for me to get some advice from y'all ranger group here, what I can tell my people that I'm talking to. And he popped right back up. He said, tell them to take responsibility for your actions. So it's good advice, and he's learning. It's in there. He knows that. Some days it can be a little hard, right? But it's what they're learning. It's hopefully what we're all learning. And the other boy, he said, learn to help others. And I like the way he put that, because there's not an end to it. We should be learning to help others as we do life. Just always learning to help others, because people are different. And then another thing that came out of that circle was make things right even when it's hard. I think that came from the boy in the problem. Make things right even when it's hard. So he's getting there. Like, I have high hopes that after I left that circle, he probably was able to come up with a good plan. And here's the last thing they told me is do what you say you are going to do. And that basically they're just talking about integrity. Be a person of your word. So that's straight from the Ranger group, and we can take that and live life a lot better if we do these things. All right, I am finished. I don't know what time it is. I can't see that clock. Oh, good. I'm right at my hour, I think. All right. Should we do questions right now? Let's give a little time for questions. I heard that Deacon Dave won't mind if he doesn't have to preach that long. The grapevine is far-reaching. Does anybody have any questions?
So those tents look kind of open air. Do they stay in those year-round?
Yes, that's a great question. Come about whenever cool weather hits, there will be a thick, clear plastic that'll go around the window part, The door will turn into a snap door, tarp. It'll be a couple layers of tarp that's snapped, and then the ceiling gets lowered with like a little bit, it's not clear plastic, but it's plastic. Ceiling gets lowered, so you just kind of make it a little space, and they all have stoves in them. So you get a fire cranking in there, and in a few minutes, it's too hot. So
Is there an age range that you normally work with?
yeah, camp takes boys from ages 9 up to their 16th birthday. So 9 through 15 is what we say.
What's the admission process like? Is it mostly court ordered?
No, boys don't. Yeah, it's a good question. Boys don't really get sent to camp. They get to come and they get a tour of campsite, and then the boy decides to come, or he decides not to come. Now, in saying that, I know there are times that courts can put a lot of pressure on a boy. Like if a boy knows that it's either this or juvie, then, he gets to decide, but he's probably going to decide camp. Most of them actually do. I think there's just been a couple that I know of that said no, they're not going to come to camp. And a lot of them don't actually even come from court order stuff. It's just families that are just kind of desperate, and they hear about camp, and they're coming and checking it out and trying, giving it a try. One thing on that, you reminded me something else I was going to say. There's 2 reasons you come to camp, and that is to help yourself and to help others. And there's 2 rules at camp. You do things as a group, and you do things with a good attitude. So that kind of is worth saying, I think. Okay, anybody else?
How about the community where you're at there? What's their response, reaction to the camp starting?
Yeah, we've been really blessed. We have our closest neighbor that borders camp there. He makes hay for us. He loves what's going on. He says it's amazing. Most of our neighbors we've been able to get on really good terms with. It's sometimes hard to know because sometimes people, you know how we are as people, we're around somebody and we kind of want to be nice. So I don't know, there might be some people griping about us behind the scenes, but at this point it seems like everybody is just really excited about it. So that's been pretty wonderful.
Did you do schooling at the camp? You put that on hold?
It gets just kind of woven in. So like the whole Trading Post checkbook thing, menus, articles. Boys will often buy a math book from Trading Post. Math is one of the hard things that camp has a hard time completely working in to the program, but other stuff like science and history and things like that gets worked into sharing times, it gets worked into trips, it gets worked into work. Basically, boys don't even know they're in school. We kind of trick them, I guess. But the math thing, they will often buy a math book from Trading Post and keep up that way.
Did you have any that can't be
Ooh. Chief Jesse could probably speak to that a little more. I haven't actually seen that, but I have heard of times when a boy comes and he doesn't know how to read or write. Jeepers. Sorry about that.
I've never had a boy that couldn't read or write.
Yeah.
But I had a 15-year-old that couldn't tie shoes.
It's wild, isn't it? I could do a shoe tying tutorial after this. I know a really fun way to tie shoes. But you're not saying that's your boy.
I'll have 15.
I'm just messing with you. Yeah, it does happen, I think. I know when I was at camp, there was a chief of another group that had a boy there. One of the younger ones that came in, And reading and writing was pretty much nil, but they had a little program for them, had writing books, and just teaching him how to read. It was kind of a special little thing that just helping him along to get there.
You alluded to it some, that this would be a program that the courts would suggest and offer.
Yeah, was the question that this program courts would recognize as an alternative?
Correct.
Yeah, it seems that most states, most camps, I believe, have a pretty good relationship with the state and with court systems. And oftentimes, yeah, courts recognize it as a viable alternative and sometimes even prefer it. I need to sit down, but hey, thanks for all y'all's interest and questions. And yeah, keep thinking about us, keep praying for us, and appreciate all that y'all have done already. I know y'all have been beating the drum for camp up here for quite a while, and we appreciate that a lot, and thank you. I guess I'll turn the time over to the song leader here.